Romania has begun a controlled shutdown of the second and final reactor at its Cernavoda nuclear power plant. Europe's severe drought is to blame. Scorching heat and low rainfall have left the Danube River at record lows. Now, that forced the plant to shut down its first reactor last month due to a lack of cooling water. The facility can supply as much as a fifth of Romania's electricity. Meanwhile, neighboring Hungary is racing to dam the Danube to maintain cooling at its only nuclear power plant. Well, I'm joined now by Diana Orgaforzats. She's a professor at the Department of Environmental Sciences and Policy at the Central European University. She also served on the UN's Scientific Expert Group on Climate Change. Diana, it's good to have you with us. Let me ask you about Romania shutting down reactors. We've got Hungary that wants to dam the Danube to cool its nuclear power plants. Of all the safety measures in place in Europe's nuclear energy sector, it seems no one thought about the possibility of running out of water for cooling.
We have been preparing for it since this isn't the first time when something like this is happening. Since France, it happened in France already several times. Several countries already have gone through this. But the extent of which what is happening now has never happened before. And it is true that we haven't really been preparing and adapting enough to what's coming, but also the extent of the drought combined with river levels and combined with the extreme heat together is something that does take many people by surprise, because this is, even climate scientists are a bit concerned about the level of these extremes and all these events compounding together and happening together.
Romania and Hungary are countries with a heavy dependence on nuclear power. How damaging are these shutdowns?
Fortunately, in the end, they have not caused as big a problem as we anticipated. Hungary was very concerned because Hungary's power, 40% of Hungary's power is coming from our nuclear power plant, and the heat wave really adds a lot of power demand. We used to have the peaks in winter, but because of the heat and extra air conditioning demand, this shifted to the summer, and it is already itself testing power grids and power supply systems. We did have to ask, I'm from Hungary, we did have to ask companies and residents and households to cut energy demand as much as possible, especially the evening peak hours. And the good part of the story is that Hungary has increased its solar power production by sixfold in just 5 years, and by which we are now actually the world's first in terms of the share of our domestic power production coming from solar energy. And that is exactly what saved us, because there were periods during the day when 80 to 90% of our power was actually produced by these photovoltaic power plants. So there are some good development. At the same time, the evening and night power demand was difficult to supply. Also, there are still also restrictions in place in Romania.
And that demand, though, for power, it's only going to increase, right? Because you will know as well as anyone that here in Europe, the use of air conditioning is growing now and is expected to grow exponentially over the next few years.
Exactly, and that is one of the factors that is driving up power demand. Europe has been very successful because in 2012, total power demand actually peaked, and since then power demand has been only going down despite our increasing population, GDP, and many other uses for power. However, this has been reversing in the last few years because we are using more cooling, but also we are using more electric mobility, more industries, also data centers are requiring more power. So anyway, there is a lot of demand already on the power system to expand more power, and certainly what we are experiencing puts another pressure because in times of such stress, the only systems which can quickly throw in more power are often the fossil-related power plants. Actually, this is also jeopardizing potentially our climate-related goals.
Let me ask you about the rivers again. The Danube is Europe's second longest river. If a river of that scale is reaching record lows, what should policymakers learn and take from that?
Well, I think we need to really start seriously preparing Europe for much more strongly for adapting to this more severe climate change that is coming. Because even though we have already warmed quite a lot, but most of these extremes that we are experiencing have been in the range of past extremes. But what is coming, we are moving to uncharted territories. These are extremes that our infrastructure has not been built for, our energy system, our food system, our water system has not been built for. So we are really in these uncharted territories. We have to prepare for things that we have not experienced and have to take totally new precautions. All of our energy security, food security, and water security are all at risk. We can adopt, but we definitely need to put much more emphasis on this.
Diana Orgel-Forsatz, it's good to have you on the program. We appreciate your insights tonight.
Thank you.